Okay.
Oh,
Hi, everybody. We're here.
we're live.
Yay. This is so exciting. Yes, we are live and we are talking Hidden Gems, Disney Plus. And when we have these busier weeks, sometimes we like to do a live episode. It's just kind of fun. And we have the chat room open so you can get in your questions. If you have anything you want to ask us about our picks or about anything else, just send them in and that will be really fun. And Ryan, how are you doing?
Doing very, very well. Allergies are finally seemingly going
Oh,
away.
good.
I still have a bit of a cough, but it's a dry cough, which is a bit of a double-edged sword because number one, I can't cough anything up, and number two, I can't cough anything up. So when I cough, it's like you need to leave. Like I evicted you a week ago. Like what are you doing?
Yeah, it's not fun. I mean, and especially because your throat gets more sore and bothered. So I'm sorry, no fun.
But I've been able to crank out the videos to a normal pace or a relatively normal pace. I did go on a bit of a mini vacation, so that kind of put a stop to the schedule. But
Yeah, how was your little vacay?
oh, it was awesome. I loved it. My myself, my friend Phil, and my other friend Billy, we all went up to Jacksonville to go see the All Elite Wrestling show, AEW Double or Nothing. And since that this show was the first show of theirs to have full capacity in the Daly's place, which fits about 5,500 people, they decided to turn it into a whole weekend. That meant their weekly TV show was live Friday night at 10. Then the next day there was a big fan fest with meet and greets and like exhibition matches and all that, podcasts and all that sort of stuff. And then Sunday night was the big show, and that's where everybody was there, and they were jammed to the rafters. You couldn't get another person in there with Vaseline, even though it's an open air building.
And you're fully vaccinated for the record, correct?
Oh yeah, there was no
People don't
danger.
get concerned.
Yeah, there was no danger. AEW did a fantastic job making me and a lot of other people feel safe, and thankfully, I haven't read any reports saying, "Oh, new COVID outbreak from the Daly's place." They're like, ugh, that never happened. Everybody was taking it all very seriously, and just on the whole, it was just a wonderful experience. I could talk about it for just days and days and days.
I'm so glad. You certainly deserved it. And I also went on a little vacay to visit my sister and my nieces. So that was really, really fun. They live in the Washington, D.C. area, and I was able to do a little bit of touristing, but the main point of the visit was to spend time with my family. And I hadn't seen them for at least 2 years. So that was really nice to get to spend time with my nieces, especially, and my sister. And we went to Arlington National Cemetery over the weekend, and that was really neat, especially on Memorial Day weekend to get to go to. I'd never been there, even though I grew up in that area. For some reason, that was one, or at least in my memory, I don't remember being there. So that was really neat to get to go and do with my niece. So that was fun. We also went to the Air and Space Museum, not like the main one, but then there's a secondary one. We went to that one because right now you have to get your tickets. They only have so many and they go really fast. And so those are the ones we were able to get. But it was a lot of fun. And I don't know, we just had a nice time just being together.
Yeah, I went to DC with my dad in like 2016 or 17, or it was either no wait, it was 2015. That's when I went, and it was a fantastic experience. Went to Arlington, and it's really weird visiting a giant cemetery, but the emotional weight of you're going to see a place where the best of the best in terms of soldiers from all wars are just there. It's a very like melancholy place, but it's also important at the same time. We went to see the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which I
Yeah, that was
highly,
neat.
I highly recommend if any of you have never been. And then in the main city part, my dad and I pretty much almost spend all of our time in the Smithsonian, because the Smithsonian is not just like one museum, it's museums, plural. You got Museum of Natural History, Museum of American History,
Yeah.
Museum of Air and Space, or Air and Space Museum, the Museum of the American Indian, and that's literally just some off the top of my head. There's a very neat one called the Newseum, which is a museum dedicated to journalism and the newspaper industry. And they don't just have like newspaper related stuff. They actually have the spire off of one of the towers of the World Trade Center in September 11th. And I think I still have that picture on my phone, and it's like it's just there. It's like a crumpled up like piece of metal. It's scary stuff, and they've got everything in there from like the late 1800s to up to like the Sony hack, the North Korea thing with the interview and all of that stuff that was in the news. And it was like, wow, I remember that, hearing about that, and it's already in this museum. That's funny how things work.
Yeah, I haven't been to that. I don't think I've been to that news one, but yeah, I've been to most of the other Smithsonian. They're really great. And right now you have to log on at like 7 a.m. and there's another at noon to try to get passes, because they're only letting so many people in. You don't have to pay for them, but you still have to log in. And so they were going very, very fast. And we just got the one for this other air and space, but it was really cool. You got to see you got to see a space shuttle and a whole bunch of different planes, and they have one of the models used for the Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So that was pretty fun to see. But yeah, it was just a nice, relaxing little trip, and kind of got my first broke the ice as far as my first plane flight post COVID. So that, or in COVID, whatever you want to call it. So that was good to kind of get that done away with. And so anyway, we have a bunch of comments real quick. Let's go through before we start our picks. So we have Fictional Gopal says, are you a fan of WandaVision? That's a Disney Plus original. Now, if you listen to our last episode on Disney Plus, if you look in the Hidden Gems episode or in our playlist for Disney Plus, you'll see that we talked about it ad nauseum, WandaVision. I loved it. I thought it was really fun. I enjoyed the mystery day by day, week by week, I should say. I've always really liked Wanda as a character. I really liked the homages to the classic sitcoms. It was really fun and different and creative. I enjoyed it. Ryan, how did you feel?
I think I'm just going to duck under the desk because, excuse me. I thought the show was just very overrated. The first half was legitimately intriguing. You'd be like, where is all this going? And then once you see where it's going, I just was like, all right. I went from really turned on to just more turned off than like you could ever ask for. And I'm not saying it's a bad show, like far from it. I love Paul Bettany, and excuse me, and Elizabeth Banks is really good as Wanda, and of course Agatha is really good as well. But there were just times in the show where I was just like, that is such a weird flex. Why would they do this? And I have an entire video on my channel going into detail about what I didn't like about it. I have no problem with the people who did like it. I'm sure there are a lot of them, Rachel included, and so hey, that's all well and good. But on the whole, it was just kind of there for me.
There were definitely some of the reveals that didn't pay off. I'll acknowledge that, but I still overall enjoyed that. Actually, I think as it got kind of, the middle was probably, I guess, my favorite, but as it kept building, because the beginning I was kind of like, I don't know, this reenactment of old shows, I didn't quite get it. But then as it kept building and getting more to her character is when I started to enjoy it more. And so I didn't have exactly the same experience as you, which is fine. And it is Elizabeth Olsen, just so but I don't know, I just really liked it. And I'm very curious to see what is going to happen next with with Doctor Strange. What is it? Doctor Strange into the
Doctor
multiverse.
Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, it's going to be so cool because directed by Sam Raimi. And I already really like Doctor Strange a lot as a character. And they were going to have him in WandaVision, but then they had to change it around because of COVID. They had too many people on set. And so, yeah, it was really, I don't know. I enjoyed it way more than Falcon and Winter Soldier. So that may be controversial.
Mr. Evil Dead, Mr. Spider-Man trilogy, and Mr. Directing to Hell directing a Doctor Strange movie. I'll take 100.
Yeah, that's right. So Fictional Girl says, I just finished it, and I'm so glad Wanda finally got her own time to shine. I agree. I think that she was underused, especially in the Avengers movies, for her powers. And so it's great. I'm glad to see her getting her time to shine, as you put it. And it's going to be very interesting to see her arc as she's sort of a villain now. What's going to happen?
Just to show that I'm coming at this not to be like a trolling, you're trolling. Like, I'm not trying to be that person. I'll talk about my favorite moment of the show. It involves Wanda. And it's the moment when she goes to S.W.O.R.D. to try and get Vision's body, and they don't let her. And so she goes to their home in that small town in New Jersey. I can't think of the name right now, but she drives into town.
Westview? Is it Westview? Anyway.
Westview, yes, Westview. And she drives up to where their house was going to be. She pulls out the deed to their home, and I can't remember the exact message, but it was like forever and ever, V and W. And yeah, it's just as good as you imagined it, if not more so. It's excellent, and that whole thing just almost made me like disregard the stuff that I didn't like. But then the show continued.
I think my favorite part was probably the flashback to her as a little girl, and the revelation that she would watch these old sitcoms as part of her coping mechanism, dealing with the trauma of what happened as a child. And so it made sense. It was where it was kind of like, this is why she would go back to these sitcoms for her coping mechanism as an adult too. I liked that. That was really good episode, I thought. But anyway, you can find out more of our thoughts if you look at our last episode of Hidden Gems, where we talk about Raya and Lost Dragon and WandaVision in detail. So check that out. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so James Mann says, hello, what are we talking about? Well, we just finished talking about WandaVision, but we're talking about Disney Plus and Hidden Gems. So, and Kate Cast is here. We love having you here.
Shout out to Kate.
And we have Remember How Night at the Museum 2 included the Smithsonian.
That's why I like that movie so much, because I watch it now, and I was like, I was in that room. I took a picture next to that painting.
Yeah. It was, I remember that one was pretty fun. Okay. Do you guys like the Disney remakes that is going on now, and excited for Little Mermaid or Peter Pan remake coming next year? The only
in the words of William Shakespeare, no.
The only reason I'm mildly excited for the Peter Pan remake is because it's directed by David Lowery, who did The Pete's Dragon, which is still my favorite of any of these live action quote unquote remakes. And I think that if he can do what he did there for Peter Pan, I'm very curious to see what he'll do. The Little Mermaid, of course, is my favorite Disney film, so I'm very nervous. But I hope that it seems like they're doing their own thing with the casting and everything. And so that's kind of my hope, is that maybe it'll be different enough to make it interesting. We'll see. I know Lin-Manuel is involved and he loves the movie, so that gives me a little hope, but I'm not like excited.
Everything right now, everything Lin-Manuel Miranda touches turns to like 24 karat gold. So that gives me some hope. And just to show again that I'm trying to come from a good place on this, my favorite of these remakes has been Jon Favreau's The Jungle Book, because he legitimately took it in a different direction. He leaned more into the darker stuff and made the jungle not like a romp, like look for the bare necessities. Like it wasn't fun. It was like the complete opposite of that. Idris Elba was Shere Khan. Brilliant casting choice, by the way. And the few times that they did sing, it was terrible. Bill Murray and Chris Walken should never sing, ever, for anything. Not even a happy
Yeah,
birthday.
it's definitely one of the better of them for sure. My favorite is still, like I said, Peach Dragon, which is not really a remake. It's just by name only. But then also Cinderella, I think, is really good. But he says, if nothing else, the songs in The Little Mermaid are going to be great. Lin-Manuel Miranda and Alan Menken. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Alan Menken
Agreed.
is awesome.
He's a legend. There's no doubt about it. So we have my favorite part of the show was episode 8, where we got an amazing look at Wanda's backstory. So we're gotta go. We're on the same page.
I like how they melded the sitcoms into it, and like you said, the coping mechanism, and how as she grew up, the sitcoms would kind of grow up with her, going from Andy Griffith all the way up to Malcolm in the Middle and everything in between there. Mm-hmm. I thought that was actually quite inspired.
Yeah, that was really good. I usually don't like Marvel movies or anything like that, but I thought WandaVision was not that bad. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So Kate Cassidy says, the Disney Plus shows remind me how we should give all of the applause to Marvel's costume department. The new looks for Scarlet Witch and Sam's Captain America translated to live action exceptionally.
And the white suit for Vision, because Vision's regular Vision's purple and the Infinity Stone, the gold one, and the gold cape, and then his clone is basically just all white and maybe a tinge of blue if he's feeling spicy. But yeah, absolutely, I give them props as well.
Agreed. Yep, very good. All right, well, let's dive in. You can still keep bringing in your questions. But now we're going to give our picks for 5 hidden gems that you can find right now on Disney Plus, and it's going to be fun. So I'm going to start, and my first pick for hidden gem is a Disney animation classic that doesn't get near enough love that it deserves. It is The Great Mouse Detective, and this is from 1986. It's the first film from Ron Clements and John Musker. And it is a mouse retelling of Sherlock Holmes. And it's really charming and fun. And you have Ratigan as the villain, and you have a great villain song, which I appreciate more now than ever, because we haven't gotten a villain song in a long time from Disney since Mother Gothel. And so this is pretty scary at times. It's pretty dark, but it's also a lot of fun. So, and the animation is beautiful. They got some early CGI, especially in the clock tower sequence. So that's always interesting to watch as well. And, it's the start of this great directing team that would go on to give us Aladdin and The Little Mermaid and Hercules and Moana and so many great films. So it's one of my favorites. Have you seen this one?
Yeah, good old Basil of Baker Street. I like in the movie they pay tribute to Basil Rathbone, who was one of the original men to play Sherlock, and gives a run for the money of the best Sherlock performance. I mean, There's been a lot of great actors who have been Sherlock, and he's definitely in the conversation. But yeah, it's been a minute since I've seen this movie, but I do remember really enjoying it. It is really good, and it's Sherlock Holmes. Like, it has to be like really bad in order to like turn me off. And Rachel, don't think about series 4. Don't do it. Don't. I know your mind was going there. You said those
words. Why did you say that name? Yeah.
Why would you say that name?
I don't like Sherlock series 4, if y'all didn't know. So yes,
you made a voodoo doll of it. I've seen it.
It made me turn me against Stephen Moffat for all time. All right. Fictional Girl Power says the 2010 live action remake of Alice in Wonderland is actually my favorite remake of theirs. So yeah, there you go. Not my favorite, but I'm glad it's yours.
Yeah, same. It's same. All film is subjective, so by all means.
Yeah. By all means. And that's a good one. Nothing groundbreaking to me, but I enjoyed when watching it. Yeah, there you go. And of all of the Disney properties that get franchises, I'm shocked Great Mouse Detective was never one of them. It's ripe with potential for one of those sequels or even a series. I think that's really true, that you could have just tons of different cases. So I'm not sure why.
Quick IMDb trip. I thought that they made more than that.
No, they never did. They never did. Yeah. You'd think it would be more obvious than Bambi 2 or or one we'll talk about that's actually decent. But yeah, that's interesting. I always thought that was interesting too. Moana is one of my favorite animated Disney princesses, only alongside Belle from Beauty and the Beast. The reason why I think that Moana hasn't been added officially to Disney princesses is because in the movie she says that she's not a princess. And so I think that they kind of took that maybe pretty literally and are like, I don't know. I think that's why.
At that point, you're just kind of splitting hairs, at least in my opinion.
I know. Do you think that Frozen deserves to have a franchise?
No offense, but I think it already is one, kind of. I mean, both movies.
I think she's saying, do you think it does? Like, was the original one good enough to deserve a franchise?
Oh.
I think what she's saying, maybe it deserves to be a franchise. Yeah, I think so, because you have two sisters, two princesses. You have double the stories that you can tell. And really, like, the end of the first movie is just sort of the beginning of them becoming kind of princesses and, ruling and whatever. And so I think that it made sense. I mean, certainly by how much money it made, of course, so they're going to make it a franchise. But I think that whether you can agree that they fulfilled that promise in the sequels, in the shorts that they did, in Frozen 2, you can say they didn't do it well, but I think they deserved to do it, personally.
I liked Frozen 2. There are a lot of people that dislike that movie. Yeah. In some cases, I get it, but I walked out of there like, for a Frozen sequel, I think they did about as good a job as you could ask for.
Me too. And they ended up with both of the sisters becoming queens, which I think was awesome. And the songs were really great. And yeah, I mean, I had my nitpicks, of course. All the new characters were kind of wasted. You thought that, they're going to be a big character, and then nothing. They were hardly in it at all. So that would be a complaint. But I thought it was pretty bold of them to basically make the enemy be their ancestors. That's pretty brave, I thought, for a story. But I would love for them to do just a traditional fairy tale with a villain and a hero. It's been a long time.
Well, it's based off of characters from Hans Christian Andersen's work, and there's no shortage of source material there. They're pretty well spoiled for choice.
Yeah. So what's your first choice? Gem?
So my first choice, and this may sound like a bit of a weird pick, and this is definitely not one of his more beloved movies, but for some reason, I've always just kind of had a bit of a soft spot for it, and it is The Game Plan. This was released in 2006. It starred The Rock as basically like the Tom Brady of this movie. He's an incredibly successful football quarterback. He has a lush apartment. He's got a dog. He's got a hot girlfriend. He's got everything. And then one day he finds out that he has a daughter played by Madison Pettis, who at that time was in the Disney Channel show Cory in the House, which is a spinoff of That's So Raven. And I like both of those shows as well. And I have a feeling that you all can probably predict some of the scenarios that happen here, and they very much happen that way. But what makes the movie watchable, at least for me, is the chemistry between Madison Pettis and The Rock. I mean, The Rock is The Rock. We all know him and love him. But back in 2006, he was still the wrestling guy, and people were assuming that he was going to burn out like Hulk Hogan or John Cena is doing very well, but like Hulk Hogan's career. But The Rock has proven that he has more staying power than probably even he realized. And he's definitely the best part of the movie. And I love the scenes that he has with Madison Pettis, because she is just like a destructive force in his life. Like one of the first scenes, like he makes her this protein shake with like tuna and spinach and just something that would honestly looked appetizing to me, but maybe it's because I'm like a gym person. But to her,
Tuna fish?
it's a protein thing. It's
Correct.
and she's a ballet dancer, so she starts doing this ballet thing, and she hits a switch on the blender, and the blender blows up. And it definitely has one of its scenes of, oh no, something exploded and stuff is all over them. What are we going to do? And it's some of it is definitely cringeworthy, but the heart of the movie is the relationship between father and daughter. And I'm not made of stone. Every time that they have like a quiet scene together, it's just great. So there are definitely awkward jokes. There are cringeworthy scenes. But if you can get past them, then I think you would be surprised. And this movie has Kira Sedgwick in there as The Rock's personal assistant, and she's a lot of fun. The dance teacher's really good as well. I've always liked this movie ever since I saw it, and maybe it's because of my nostalgia goggles, because it has a lot of Disney Channel people, and be like, I know her, I know him, but at the same time, I really like this.
Actually, I haven't seen this one, so I can't comment one way or another. But Kate Castaz says, "Oh, right, the game plan back when Disney was putting Dwayne Johnson in as many family films as possible." So
and Jungle Cruise, so they're still on the trend there.
Yeah,
and Race to Witch Mountain, which I'll talk about in another episode.
Okay. We have more Frozen 2 comments. When Elsa got frozen in that cave, Disney tricked me into thinking that they were killing a Disney princess for the first time. Well, nobody, I mean, it's kind of this, nobody but villains, I think, dies in Disney the same way with Marvel. So I feel so bad for Frozen 2. It's almost great, but you can tell they had trouble figuring some things out. Maybe if the team had another year, it could have been something truly special.
That's fair.
Probably fair. My next pick is Ferdinand, and this is from Sad R.I.P. Blue Sky. And this is
one out.
Yeah, this is about a bull that is really nice and doesn't want to be mean, but is put in as a bull in the bullfights. And so in Spain, but he has this friendship with this little girl. This is a weird movie, some really strange humor, but I still overall liked it, and I thought it was sweet, and I liked the animation. So I think it's worth a watch on Disney Plus.
As a wrestling fan, I have a bit of a weird sort of loyalty to support most things that wrestlers in movies are in. Not a lot of them are very good, but Ferdinand actually kind of surprised me a little. Yeah. This actually has a lot of heart to it. It's funny at times. And John Cena, if proven anything, it's that he's actually capable of being in some good movies. He's going to be in the upcoming Fast and Furious movie, like 9 or 12 or 75, however many they are. And he's going to be in the Suicide Squad this year. Like, he's been in just, his film career has gone from like these like WWE Studios movies to like big time superhero movies, and I'm all here for it. He's good in blockers as well.
Yeah, you want to hear something weird? I saw Ferdinand on the same day as I saw Last Jedi. So that was it. Woo!
Oh boy.
That was a seesaw. There we go.
Like Ferdinand, Last Jedi.
Yeah, that's right. John Cena starring in the game plan too.
Brandon, don't give him ideas. Don't give him ideas.
So, all right, what's your next pick?
So my next choice, and this is kind of walking the tightrope of a hidden gem, but I feel like it came out during like one of Disney's hottest periods. I don't think anybody really talks about it anymore, and I'd like to lead the charge in bringing up how awesome The Hunchback of Notre Dame is. This is based on the legendary book written by Victor Hugo. It's been a movie before. It was actually one of the first silent horror movies ever made, starring the Man of a Thousand Faces, Lon Chaney Sr. Yes, the Man of a Thousand Faces, Lon Chaney Sr. But in this version, it's pretty much the same story. The Hunchback, Quasimodo, voiced by Tom Hulce of Amadeus theme, and one of my all-time favorite movies, rings the bell for the Church of Notre Dame and is kind of ruled over by Judge Frollo, who is just a horrible human being. I'll talk about him in a second. But just there are some people that actually kind of don't like this movie, and I think I understand why, but also at the same time, this movie was made at the height of Disney's powers. The animation is beautiful, the songs are awesome, not just Frollo's song, but Quasimodo's song, I will spend one day out there. And I'm not doing it justice. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. This is a very dark movie, especially involving Frollo. There's some very disturbing implications that make you fear that Disney's going to go a little near the knuckle. They don't, but it's definitely, for a movie that's either G or PG, they get away with a lot. That's all I will say. A lot is implied. But if you have not seen this movie in a while, do check it out. It's in some cases, it is much better than you remember it.
Yeah, so this is a movie that I admire more than I like. I think that it has some tonal problems, particularly with the gargoyles. I think they don't work at all. I like certain songs. Out There is one of my favorites. I think it's really well done. But I think it also has some problems with, I wish that it had made the gypsies more likable, because they're so mean to Quasi that it makes you hard to root for them as being this sort of, as being this persecuted minority, which they are in the story, but they're so mean to him, throwing stuff at him and everything, and they're gonna hang them at one point, that it makes it harder to root for them than I would like. It is incredibly dark, and I had kind of an unfortunate experience when I first watched it, because I was babysitting for a friend of mine, her nephews, and I said, "Oh, this is the latest Disney movie," and I put it on, and I was just like, "What?
Big mistake.
What is happening?"
Big mistake.
And it was just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I don't hate it by any means, and it is beautiful. I also think that it starts out with Frollo killing Quasimodo's mother. Sorry, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie. And then it's kind of hard to go back to, like, he starts out as evil as it gets, right? And then there's nowhere for his character to go. Like, he is evil. And if they had kind of started with him being more of a church, man of the church or something like that, and then like, whoa, then he did this, they would, I think, be a little bit better. But nevertheless, it is definitely the most ambitious film I think Disney's ever tried to do. It's definitely worth watching. And if you haven't listened, you should check out our Talking Disney episode. We had my friend Christine Tyler, who's a huge fan of that movie. We had her on, me and Stanford, and I thought it was a great discussion. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I think you'll really enjoy it. And so, yeah, we got some comments here.
Judge Frollo has to be in the conversation for best Disney villain of all time. Like, he almost overtakes the whole movie, but I think in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Brandon says Hunchback Notre Dame might be Disney's darkest film, and Frollo might be a top 5 villain for how cruel and just how heartless he really is. I used to watch this a lot as a kid. Don't think my parents ever watched it with me. That's the rest of it.
That's what I said.
So Kate Cass says, one thing I really remember fondly about Hunchback is that it has a fantastic opening number, second only to Lion King, in my opinion.
I think Lion King is the best Disney opening of all time, and I don't think you can change my mind on that. The opening is so good that in lieu of a teaser trailer, they just showed that. Disney was like, this opening is so awesome, we're just going to show you it.
It's really good. I do love the openings for that whole era. I think we're really strong. I think the opening of Beauty and the Beast is really strong with the stained glass windows and the whole opening story. I love the beginning of The Little Mermaid with Fathoms Below. I think that's really strong. I'm trying to think if there's any. That's a good question. That would be an interesting video, is top Disney openings.
Well, Disney is subtly the best at what they do in terms of teaser trailers. no matter what it is, Disney, Pixar,
Yeah.
like they just own the market on excellent teaser trailers.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No contest, Ryan. Lion King's opening is indeed king.
This
So
bumpy
there you
cake.
go. Yeah, that's right. um, and so let's see here if there's anything. I did like this comment real quick that it might be more of a seesaw than when I saw Angry Birds and Captain America Civil War the same
night. You poor soul. You should watch Angry Birds 2 to give yourself a palate cleanse.
All right. Well, my next pick is something I never thought that I would recommend, but I just did a collaboration with my friend Sean Chandler over on his channel, ranking all of the 101 Dalmatians movies. That included 5 movies, included the original animated film, the 101 Dalmatians remake, 102 Dalmatians, the sequel to the remake, and then Cruella, and then 101 Dalmatians 2. And I normally am not a fan of these cheapquels, but this one was actually pretty decent. It was probably one of the better ones that I've ever seen of the cheapquels. And it has a great cast: Barry Bostwick, Jason Alexander, Martin Short. And it's basically Patch. He is feeling alone with a family of 101, you would imagine that can happen. And so he runs away and he auditions to be on a TV show that they show in the original film. And Thunderbolt. Oh, Thunderbolt. And so he auditions, and there's that kind of story. Meanwhile, Cruella becomes friends with a artist voiced by Martin Short, who is kind of obsessed with drawing spots. And so I thought that was kind of a clever way for Cruella to go. The animation is serviceable. It's not like the best ever, but it's fine. It definitely has a bit of a made-for-TV feel, but especially considering the quality of these cheapquels, this was actually my number 2. If you watch that ranking, which you all should, I'd really appreciate it, actually, if you all watched it and put comments and stuff. But yeah, that was my number 2, which is very surprising. So
yeah, I was watching Sean's video, and the entire time I was like, wait, there are 5 of these things? Why am I just finding this out now? Because I knew about the original, and I knew about the first remake with Glenn Close. I'm like, there are 3 more? One of them has Dr. House in it? Like,
yeah.
What universe am I living in where Dr. House is in a Dalmatians movie?
Right, yeah. Oh, wow. I just got hit with a wave of nostalgia. I watched this movie all the time as a kid, but I don't think I've seen it in almost 2 decades. Might be a time for a revisit. Yeah. Sean liked it as well. He had it at number 4, but he basically was like, it was fun. And then 2 straight Disney films that Jason Alexander's in. That's true. He's one of the gargoyles.
Oh, yeah, he was one of the gargoyles.
I didn't like him in either one. Ouch.
And to your point, just backtracking slightly about the gargoyles, I like the gargoyles in like small bursts, but I do get why people would dislike them. They feel like tacked on comedy relief when you have Judge Frollo being like, I summon the gates of hell, and all the stuff with Esmeralda. And here are these gargoyles being like, oh, cheer up, cheer up, Quasimodo. Nothing's wrong. It'd be like,
yeah. And what they do when they sing A Guy Like You, it's actually kind of mean when you think about it, what they're doing to Quasi and getting all his hopes up and everything like that. So I don't know. It's weird, but
the only gargoyles that should be in this movie are the actual gargoyles from the Disney TV show. Broadway, Hudson, like they deal with Frollo pretty quick.
Yeah. So what is your next pick?
So my next pick is a Disney Channel original movie, and I think I mentioned when I recommended one of the High School Musical films that I watched this on its premiere night. Well, that goes double for this next pick. It's Wendy Wu, Homecoming Warrior. This was in the middle of my big Disney Channel just super fan phase. So whenever they came out with an original movie, I'm like, just forget about the rest of the day. I know where I'll be tonight. And that goes double for Wendy Wu, because it starred Brenda Song, who was in my favorite show on there, The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. And the movie tells a story about a girl named, well, Wendy Wu. She's your typical high school student. She's planning homecoming. I believe she's the homecoming queen. I haven't seen it in a really long time. I just remember it I remember it slightly well. But she's a part of homecoming and all that. And then a monk appears and says that, hey, you're the reincarnation of one of our fiercest warriors. And she's like, and you're married to who? And so the movie is just her trying to figure out this kung fu stuff, the monk helping her, and then just a lot of other stuff happening. I can see why people wouldn't like these movies. They're very much Disney Channel original movies. They follow a formula. They reuse a lot of people from their series, as they do here. So I can get why people wouldn't like it, but I have a soft spot for these movies. I think I've recommended all of the High School Musical movies in some capacity on this podcast. And that's not to mention movies like Jump In and Motocrossed and Miracle in Lane 2 and Wendy Wu. And I really enjoyed this movie. It's got a lot of funny moments. It's got some pretty good-looking stunts, I think. And on the whole, I think this is definitely underrated, especially for a Disney Channel original.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one, but I agree with you on Disney Channel original movies. I think that people are too hard on them, especially like grown adults who are like, they're
not even close to your demographic.
Yeah, they're not made for you. I mean, and that doesn't mean we excuse it when they make something terrible, but like, I think it's fair to acknowledge when something is made for a particular demographic.
I was in like the perfect sweet spot for that. Like, this came out in 2008, and I was 11 years old. So I guess I was on the older end of it, but I was like in the sweet spot.
Yeah, people getting all worked up about Descendants. I'm just like, what is wrong with you? But I really enjoyed the Descendants movies. I really enjoyed Teen Beach Movie. I really enjoyed the Zombies movies. They were fun. I liked High School Musical, and I enjoyed High School Musical, the series. I even thought about talking about it in this episode because there's a new season 2. So yeah, I agree with you. I'll have to check this out one of these days. And I've done a ton of the original Halloween movies as part of Disney Scares Month. So you should check out Halloween Town and Halloween Town 2. I've done both the Twitches movies. I've done Don't Look Under the Bed is really solid. That one's really good. The Scream Team, underrated. That one's really good. So you should check that out.
Yeah, and without the Disney Channel, we wouldn't have gotten Shia LaBeouf. And if you were to say that in like 2017, people would be like, we should burn it to the ground. But nowadays, he's actually on the upswing. So we can actually say that as a positive.
Brenda Song is a really endearing actor. I'm glad she's getting more work in Amphibia. And I believe
she's getting a lot of smaller roles. And I looked up her IMDb because I hadn't heard from her. And I'm like, oh, she's in a lot of TV shows, but you wouldn't really notice it was her unless you were like looking for her.
And I think she played Mulan on Once Upon a Time, but I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure.
She would make for a good Mulan. I won't lie.
How would you rank the High School Musical trilogy? I'm going to be reviewing High School Musical 2 coming up for Teen Movie Month. And so you want to check that out. I haven't seen 2 and 3 for a long, long time. But the first one has my favorite music. I just really think the songs are the most catchy. The third is probably the best made just because it was actually like a feature film. So I would probably say 1, 3, 2, but I haven't seen 2 for a long time, but I'm going to revisit this month. So keep an eye out for that.
My ranking would be 3 is number 1, 1 is number 2, and 2 is number 3. I don't dislike 2. I actually like it. I have a lot of memories of it. I actually watched that on its premiere night. But just 3 is the best made. 1 is the one that everyone remembers, and 2 has a lot of merits, but is definitely the weakest.
Have you watched any of the series?
I watched the first episode just because I was thinking about making a vlog of my first week with Disney Plus, and it didn't go anywhere. But the first episode I liked fine, but I never got around to it.
Never got around. Fair enough. All right. Brandon says Wendy Wu was fantastic as a kid. The choreography and the fight scenes, I remembered them being so good. So There we go. So it's kind of funny. We have this question. You can see. Let's just say we'll be coming to it.
Just put a pin in that fictional girl power. Yes. We'll be getting there.
Put a pin in it. Brenda's song is now with Macaulay Culkin, if that interests you.
In a certain time, I'd be like, Brenda, run. But actually, Macaulay Culkin is actually in a really good place right now. Yeah. So good for them.
Yeah, way to go. So my next pick is the Great Muppet Caper. We just finished up Muppet May, so I really enjoyed doing that. And so you should check out the playlist. I know I've been plugging everything this whole episode, but I just finished, and I have a review for the Great Muppet Caper in there. And this is a really fun movie. Basically, you have Kermit and Fozzie. They start investigating the theft of this giant diamond, and Miss Piggy becomes involved. And Charles Grodin, R.I.P., he just passed away. He's in this, and he's hilarious. He kind of wines and dines Miss Piggy. Very funny. He's the villain. So yeah, you should check it out if you haven't seen it. I mean, it's really fun.
I actually have seen it. I've put this kind of on pause because I have a lot of other movies to watch, but I tried to make my way through all of the movies of the 80s just for completion's sake. I got through all of 80, and I'm currently in like August of 81. But one of the movies I watched was The Great Muppet Caper, and it's the Muppets. I can't like hate anything that the Muppets do. It's like a law somewhere. I don't think this is one of my favorite Muppet movies. I think that'd still be Muppets Christmas Carol and I think Treasure Island. I'd have to think about that, but this is still a fun movie nonetheless.
Yeah, it's not my favorite either, but I do enjoy it, and I think it's worth revisiting just for Charles Grodin, since he just passed away. I think it's kind of fun to look back on him dancing with Miss Piggy. So we have, it's so weird. The only Muppets I remember watching was Muppet Babies, and I never watched most of the Muppet movies until I got older. Well, God, yeah. I'm glad you caught up on them.
I had a bit of a similar experience, so I can be a little sympathetic there.
All right, what's your next pick?
So my next choice, and again, this is walking the tightrope, but and walking the tightrope because this actually just got a new original series recently, but I'm going to recommend the original The Mighty Ducks. And again, this is a beloved movie. Everyone I've talked to is be like, The Mighty Ducks, yes. So this isn't necessarily obscure, but I've always loved this movie. I always have. You all know the plot of this probably by heart. It's about a hotshot lawyer played by Emilio Estevez who gets in legal trouble and for community service must coach a youth hockey team. And they suck. They suck real bad. But over the course of the movie, they consistently get better and better and better, which leads to a big main event going up against the best youth hockey team that they have going. And I think in many ways this movie is a lot better than you remember, probably because of the acting of Emilio Estevez and the camaraderie between the Ducks. I love the camaraderie between the Ducks. You have, and they're kind of caricatures. You have the one that eats all the time, the one that's the nerd, the one that's the cool one, the rebel, and all that. But they're tropes because they're good things that have been done good so many times that they just fall into categories, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And that goes double for Mighty Ducks. I love the relationship between Coach Bombay and them because it's not perfect. They have a falling out, but they do come back together, and they're very sarcastic with each other. I love the scene where Coach Bombay reveals that they're calling themselves the Ducks, and they're like, the Ducks? Like, what is this? They don't even have teeth. And Gordon Bombay, and he's like, so do hockey players. And I thought that was a really funny line. And this actually has quite a few moments where you're like, wow, that's actually pretty good filmmaking. Like when when Coach Bombay gets his old skates back and he starts on the ice, and it's like he hasn't really done these things for a long time, but it's like riding a bike for him. You never truly like not learn. And it's just, like I said, this is definitely more of an emotional ride, more of a funny ride than I'm sure a lot of you remember. It's got a lot of tropes and sports movie cliches and all that, but it's all done very well to make it all very watchable. And I haven't seen the sequels in a very long time. I hear they're mixed bags.
Yeah, it is kind of funny when you rewatch it and you're like, yeah, you need to make your penance for drunk driving. Let's put you coaching children. That's a great idea. Like, what?
It's like putting Stone Cold Steve Austin in charge of a brewery. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Where's the disconnect?
But also, yeah, it totally has that sort of trope, that like troop of kids that you'd see in tons of 90s movies, whether it was Sandlot or Newsies or Hook or just a ton of different movies that had kind of your crew of, you had like the fat one and the cool one and the brute, like the tough guy, you had like all these,
and the quiet one who is secretly
the tomboy
best on the team.
Yeah, there's always a tomboy girl. Stand there.
Well, that's not the case in the Mighty Ducks.
Is there a girl in there? One girl?
I think
that's in the sequel.
I think one of the ducks was like in a relationship. I'm not.
Totally Maybe it's in the sequel that there's the girl, but anyway, it's totally charming and fun, and I enjoy it as well.
There's a scene in that movie that just actively just makes me so mad. It's when Adam Banks goes from the Sharks to the Ducks because of the whole zoning thing. And, and during the championship game, his former Shark teammate just completely cross-checks him and just like, oh my God. And his other friends just turns to him and is like, what did you do? And the player's like, my job. Like, I just want to reach through the screen and slap him. Like,
quack, 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 quack. Yeah. Being from Canada, you're not a true Canadian until you watch the Mighty Ducks, mostly because of its hockey. And Goldberg thought Ryan would like that comment with the wrestling Mighty Ducks reference.
Bravo.
Very good.
Bravo.
All right. Well, my last pick is actually a 2021 release. It just came out in June, and it is a short called Us Again. And this was partnered with Raya in the theatrical release of Raya and the Last Dragon, the short Us Again. And this is one of my favorite films, feature or short, that I've seen in 2021. And I've seen quite a few films already, including festivals. And I just absolutely loved this short. Not only is it gorgeous, the animation, but just the humanity of it really got to me, of them being, it's about this old man, this old woman, and they go out in the rain, and it's kind of magic rain, and it makes them young again. So it's us again, and they're dancing. And I just found it so beautiful. And I was crying. And it really kind of set the bar high for Raya, to be honest. It's like, oh, this is so good.
I find myself in some cases liking the short more than the actual movie it's attached to. Like Incredibles 2 was amazing, but like half the car ride home, I was like, God, Bao was so nuts, but at the same time, it was really good also, because the entire time you're thinking to myself, wait, did this woman give birth to like a dumpling and then she like ate it? Like, I have so many questions. And then you find out it's a metaphor, but it's one of those things where you're just like, oh God. And it's like the shorts. Just to get back on topic a bit, the shorts, whether Pixar or Disney, do so well with telling a big story in like a short amount of time. And a lot of times there's no actual dialogue. Like in Us Again, it's all told through music. And you get exactly what they're trying to get across in like the first 5 or 10 seconds, at least for me.
Yeah, because even if you haven't experienced, like, I'm 40, I'm not the same age as these characters, obviously, but you still have that kind of longing maybe for certain times of your life, even at 40. The idea of sort of this experience is just beautiful, and it's, I don't know, I just absolutely adored it. So it was so bizarre that they didn't include it with the premiere access for Raya. Like, if you're paying $30, you think they could throw in the short? What on earth?
People complain about movie theater prices, and yet they throw it on their streaming service and don't even include the short for 30. Like, it's like you've
so weird.
You didn't get the assignment, Disney. Come on.
So if you watched it premiere access and you didn't see us again, definitely go and watch it now that it's available for all Disney Plus. It is wonderful. And I'm still hopeful that maybe I'll get a chance to interview the director. I've been communicating with him, but he has a brand new, tiny little newborn baby, and that is taking over his life, and I don't blame him. So I understand. But hopefully someday I'll get to interview him, because I just adored his film. But yes, and we got a super chat from Brandon. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really
shout out to you, my good Canadian friend, Brandon.
Yes, thank you. All right, what is your final pick, Ryan?
So my final pick is a movie that means a whole lot to me, and it is called Brother Bear. This is like on the tail end of the Disney Renaissance, and it's like just at the tail end. Like, I think this was released in 2004, so they were like in between like the modern stuff and the Renaissance. But it tells the story of this. I want to say, I don't know if they're like American Indians or some.
I think they're Eskimos, like Alaska.
Of this Eskimo man named Kenai, voiced by Joaquin Phoenix, of all people. And he is given, and in a ritual, he is given the spirit of the bear of love. And initially, he's like, I got the bear spirit, while they got like tigers and like saber-tooth and like eagles and all that, is like, and I got the bear. And to make a long story short, his brother dies thanks to a bear attack. He is out for vengeance and almost gets it, but then he gets turned into a bear himself. And so he runs into this smallish bear who he has to take him back to his mother. And little do they know that there's a dark secret attached to that mission. My dad and I watched this in the theaters, and it is just a movie that I try and watch once a year. This has very, very great memories for me. But not only that, but I think it's just very well made. It can be very silly at times, especially the two mooses who are just like, hey, you know what he's talking about? I think so. I don't know. And it makes me laugh every time. And then you have the two mountain goats who are like banging each other's heads all the time. And then they get into a fight with each other's echoes, be like, hey, shut up. Hey, shut up. No, you shut up. No, you shut up. I'm not doing it justice. It's awesome. The animation is beautiful. Phil Collins does the music. Can't go wrong with that choice there ever for anything. And this is just I think this was like my first epic movie, or like the first epic movie that I truly saw, because this is a journey, like just a spiritual journey, an emotional journey. I can't talk about this movie enough. I want to make a review about it one day. So, Brother Bear, it's great.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this movie, but I'm glad that you love it. I think that every Disney movie speaks to somebody, even Chicken Little, which I think is the worst. But I'm sure that there's people I'm sure there are people that love Chicken Little out there, and it was their first Disney experience, and that's special. I wouldn't take them of that at all. If you want to hear more about my thoughts of Brother Bear, then you should listen to our Talking Disney episode where we did Tarzan and Brother Bear together, and we compared contrast to the two. And that I thought was a really good episode of the show. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to yuck on your yum, so that's fine if you enjoy it. Coda he's not my favorite.
I mean, Coda is kind of hard work at times. I get it, but I mean, at the end of the day, his heart is in the right place, and on the whole, it just, I just like him.
Yeah, No, I'm glad you do. And I think that's great. Kit Cass loves it too. Love Brother Bear. It's such an emotional movie. And then I loved the Phil Collins music. Not as good as Tarzan, but still good. It Looks Like You Hunted Me. Gets me every time. And strangely very short, though. I don't even think it's 80 minutes long, but I saw Brother Bear in theaters too, and it was really a special experience.
I thought it was longer than 80, but I'll have to double check.
Let me see.
If it is about that length, then that's impressive to cram like
85. 85. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty impressive to cram like that much into like that compact a runtime.
Let's see here. I understand why people find Coda annoying, but I really like him as well. There's a Coda plush literally 3 feet from where I'm sitting. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think you need to do that, Brother Bear. Justice for Brother Bear review, Ryan.
Hashtag justice for Brother Bear.
Yeah, we'll make sure we let Kate Cast and Brandon, everybody know. So there we go. We did it. Those are our picks. It's very fun. So thank you so much for everybody's great questions and comments. It's been so much fun. And I love doing these live episodes. I like doing the other ones as well, but this is really fun. And so if you enjoy them, let us know in the comments section. And Ryan, where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at RyanCam20. Then there's, of course, my YouTube channel, which is just called RyanCam. I am quickly approaching the end of the AFI project. I am literally on 92 out of 100 movies on that list. I just reviewed Sophie's Choice today. That video dropped. That's 91. So this upcoming week is going to be 92, 93, and 94. Let me look at my board.
Speaking of an opening, Sophie's Choice. Woo.
You're telling me. 92 is Goodfellas. That review will be on Monday. 93 is The French Connection. That'll be Wednesday. And then Friday will be Pulp Fiction. That's 94.
Almost done. Oh my gosh.
I started it literally at the onset of this stupid virus, and I didn't think it would be like the main like course of my channel. I didn't think theaters would be closed for a dang year, but there we go. Yeah. And then this coming Sunday, I'll be dropping a big retrospective on one of my favorite comedies of all time, The Blues Brothers from 1980. So that'll be coming. Saturday, Rachel and I will be dropping Movie Nerds Club videos for our top 5 long-running franchises. I love doing Movie Nerds Club videos with Rachel and Larry and Alyssa and Ren and all of them.
And this one you guys will really want to watch all of the videos because it was fairly controversial. So make sure that you check them out.
I think out of all the videos we've done, this is probably the one where we've had to put like more caveats and technicalities and just all of that. And then next Sunday, I believe it is the 12th. Yes. The 14th. I'm sorry. I know how to do math. The 14th of Sunday, June 14th. Myself and Sean from the channel Lost in the Reel will be doing a deep dive into the Studio Ghibli classic Spirited Away. So that's going to be June 14th. So if you haven't checked my channel out, please do. Put a lot of time and effort into it. I'm at 143 subscribers. Like to get to 150 if you please don't mind. I'm not e-begging, I promise.
Yeah, you all should definitely subscribe. And we have over on my channel, we have Teen Movie Month coming for Family Movie Night. That's on Mondays. And so that should be really fun. And then we also have next week, we have our Talking Animation episode for June. This time we're not really doing something all that obscure. We just wanted to talk about it. So we're doing Mitchell's versus the Machines, me and Stanford. That's coming on Wednesday. Our podcast on that. It's so because we love that movie. So that would be really, really fun. And then we have some awesome female film critics panels coming that I'm working on. We have our next Talking Disney is going to be on The Emperor's New Groove, and we have Jennifer Chandler joining us for that. So that will be really fun. Yeah, we're nearing the end of that project as well. We only have, after an Emperor's, we only have 5 movies left, which is kind of crazy. So in the Disney canon. So lots of fun stuff coming. And also at Hallmarkies podcast, lots of good stuff going over there. Next week, we're doing our top 5 overrated Hallmark movies. So it's going to ruffle some feathers. It's going to be very fun. You want to make sure you're subscribed over there. Lots of fun stuff. And thanks so much, everybody. This was great. Thanks, Ryan. And we'll talk to you all later.
Bye.